Okay, YouTube, let's talk about anchors. So, as many of you are probably aware, these Ranger R27s come from the factory with a 16 and a half pound Lewmar anchor, which from what I was able to gather from doing some research, that this is a copy of a Bruce basically, and Bruce is a pretty old anchor design. I think it's almost like 100 years old now, if I'm not mistaken, so it's been around a while. And basically, generally speaking, anchors are kind of put into two different categories. Again, I'm not an expert at this, I'm just kind of relaying what I've read. There's kind of considered modern anchors, and then like second generation anchors, and then there's the older anchor designs. And this, of course, goes into first generation anchor category. And basically, from what I've read, that any modern anchor, regardless of brand, is going to outperform, generally speaking, the older style anchors for the most part. So you really can't go wrong upgrading to a modern anchor if you want improved anchor performance, which we do, because we boat in our area a lot of large lakes and stuff, and the bottoms are really not ideal for anchoring. I mean, it's kind of a combination of mud and rocks, and it's just not an ideal substrate, but it is what it is. So we've, as you may have seen in our previous videos, we actually had a few instances where our anchors have drug in windstorms at the lake. Nothing, we didn't drag a lot or real far, but nevertheless we did drag. And I've owned boats most of my adult life, 14 to 22 foot fishing boats. It was day boats. You went out and you went out for the day and you came back. You weren't sleeping on the boat. Well, as you would know, one of the features of Ranger tugs is they're very capable of doing overnight stuff. And so now we're sleeping on the boat, and you want to have confidence in your gear. And we don't have, although this anchor does a decent job, and it's drug a few times, and it always reset itself. It still kind of gives you concern when you're trying to get to sleep at night. You're kind of wondering. So my wife and I thought it over, and we thought, maybe it would be good to do some research and get a more modern anchor that could most likely perform better than this anchor. So I went on the internet and did a whole lot of research, and like a lot of things on the internet, you oftentimes leave more confused than when you started your search, and so I was reading all the different posts and everybody's opinion, and they all, of course, are all over the board on what's the best modern anchor. And when I say modern anchor, generally speaking, modern anchors are considered like anything made within the last 25 years, designed and made in the last 25 years. Those are considered modern anchors, and generally speaking, modern anchors outperform the old style anchors, generally speaking, by a pretty considerable amount. So a few sources that I used that I felt were really valuable and very well thought out in their anchor testing information. The one that stands out is Sailing Vessel Panopay, I think it is. So just put SV Panopay into your search bar on YouTube, and they'll come up. And he doesn't take any money from any anchor manufacturers. And he's very methodical and scientific about how he goes about testing the anchors. It's all videotaped, and he does a phenomenal job. As a matter of fact, he has a boat specifically designed for just testing anchors. That's all it's used for, from what I understand, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to put a link to his channel if you want to go really deep into this and get real deep in-depth information. Again, I'm just a guy who has this big boat and wants to do a little bit better in anchoring. I'm not, I've done a lot of rigorous testing, so by all means check him out. I think what you'll gain from watching this particular video is, if you have this boat and you're considering upgrading your anchor, I can just share my experiences with you. Me and the kids are going to go in the backyard and do some anchor testing in our freshly tilled garden, so you'll kind of get a feel for the differences. So without further ado, this one is being taken off the boat, and then we got from Fisheries Supply, which is a company I've done a lot of business with, and they're fantastic. I have great selection, great customer service. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. They're just always, the company's always been very good. They've always had parts, little parts that I've needed over the years. Like, again, I've had a lot of boats over the years. They always seem to have what I need. Anyway, so shout out to Fisheries Supply. Not sponsored, but great company. So anyway, here is the new anchor. So it's the Rocna 10, which is 22 pounds. For a comparison, here's the Lewmar Bruce copy the factory puts on. So substantial size difference, and there's a lot of design differences as well that we will get into when we go in the backyard. Kind of show you these anchors in a little more detail. But generally speaking, on the internet, this anchor's held in high regard. It's been around for quite a while, I think 20 plus years. So as far as, as we discussed earlier, modern anchors, this is an older modern anchor. It's been around a while, stood the test of time, widely considered to be a pretty darn good anchor. So, and the price is not bad. When you start comparing prices of modern anchors, oof, some of those get pretty expensive, and quite frankly, based on what sailing vessel Panope, showed in their test, there's anchors that are better than this. There's modern anchors that outperform this one. They also come at a pretty big price difference too, from what I was able to gather. And so, I chose this one. Another resource that I use was there's a YouTube channel called Channel Surfing, and they own one of these R27 boats. And he put this anchor on his boat, and so he has a whole YouTube video about it. So I know it'll fit this boat. The cradle was, compatible with this anchor, and so it kind of made it easy for me to make this decision. It's as far as modern anchors go, it's fairly inexpensive, and I know it'll fit in my cradle, and someone's already thought through this, so I'm just kind of copying what Channel Surfing did. So if you want to learn about the R27, every aspect of it, he's like an expert. He rewired his boat. He's done tons of work, about a bunch of how-to videos. I highly recommend you check out his channel. I'll put a link in my description so you can check his stuff out, because he's kind of a guru on these boats. And anyway, he talks about the anchors as well. And anyway, so that's kind of the path that led us to where we are right now. So I'm going to put this thing on there after the kids and I do some testing in the garden, so y'all can kind of see how it compares, in that scenario. It's just kind of a fun thing to do, and I think there's some value to it. I think if you're considering upgrading to this particular anchor, you can see with your own eyes how it performs compared to this one in that scenario. And of course, as we continue to boat, you're going to see this anchor in real world situations. And as I said before, I tend to anchor in some pretty suboptimal areas, where the bottom is not that great. So, I have it marked on my chart plotter, so I'll be using this anchor at the lake at the same places I use this anchor at the lake. So I'll be able to, as time goes by, give you guys more feedback on how this performs. But anyway, so without further ado, let's go to the backyard. Okay, all right, so here's the two anchors. So as you know, the R27s come with this Lewmar. It's a 16.5 pound anchor, and it's basically, from what I understand, a copy of a Bruce, which is a very old anchor design that's been around for a very long time. Anyway, upon recommendations, we decided, in the name of more security at anchor, to upgrade to the Rocna 10, which is 22 pounds. And as you can see here, there's a
significant size difference. Obviously there's a weight difference too. This has kind of a blunt tip, whereas this one's pretty sharp. So I can definitely see where this one would dig down and set faster. So this is very unscientific, but for any of you Ranger Tug R27 owners who are considering switching anchors, well, this might kind of give you an idea of how the Rocna compares to the Bruce or Lewmar, whatever you want to call it. We have my wife's garden here, which we haven't planted yet. Probably won't because we're falling behind on our house chores. But anyway, we're going to use this as a test bed, so to speak, and see how these anchors compare with me just pulling on them to the best of my ability, and we'll see what happens. So, all right, we'll turn that off. Okay, so here's our two anchors. As I said before, this is what comes from the factory, the Lewmar. It's 16.5 pounds. From what I understand, it's just a copy of a Bruce, which is a very old anchor design. This is the Rocna, which came highly recommended. This Rocna is 22 pounds, and right away you can see the tip on the Lewmar is pretty blunt, and the tip on the Rocna is fairly sharp. So that's the one thing that stands out as a pretty big difference. Obviously there's some other significant design differences. So this is going to be our test bed. It's my wife's strawberry garden, which we forgot to plant, or we didn't get around to planting, I should say. So we're going to use this as a test bed to see how these anchors perform. Again, this isn't super scientific or anything. It's just kind of a way to kind of show you how these two anchors perform. So if you're considering an upgrade of some sort, well, you kind of have a rough idea if one has significant more stopping power than the other. So, all right, cut that. Okay, so here we are in the garden here. So this was recently rototilled, so it's fresh, fluffy dirt, garden dirt. So anyway, each anchor is going to experience roughly the same conditions. Actually, before I did the film test, I did a few tests just to kind of see how viable my concept was here. So the soil's pretty well worked up and it's uniform. I raked everything smooth again, and so we're going to compare these anchors to see how it goes. So I'm going to start pulling now on the Rocna and see how it goes. I'm pulling pretty even angle, just like we had a good amount of scope. And here we go. It is definitely pulling hard. This is as you can see, I cannot pull it any further. So there you go. I surrender. I give up. This tug-of-war, the anchor wins.
You lost.
You can see it dug down real good. Pretty impressive.
Okay.
It's pretty, seemed to set pretty good. So we're going to see how it compares to the Lewmar right there. See how these compare. But that was a thing. It gave me a pretty good workout. So anyway, on to round two. Once again, this is a kind of a copy of a Bruce, which is an old school anchor. Let's see how it does. Okay, in position. Here the pull starts. It's pulling, it's digging in, but I can still. Yeah, I think I'm gonna win this one. It's definitely a lot easier than the Rocna. Mike for the win. Okay, well, we're gonna let my son have a shot. He was my cameraman, and he said, "Well, I want to try that, Dad." So he's 9 years old. He's pretty strong and big for his age. So we'll see how far he can pull that Rocna. Maybe he'll be able to out-pull Dad. That would be funny. All right, so here we go. Okay, Bo, on three, start pulling. 1, 2, 3. I think the Rocna's. Oh, I think the Rocna's winning this one, guys. I think he's done.
Can I stand up and see?
No, you got to pull it like that, so it's fair to the anchor. Yeah. Okay, Rocna wins. Yay, Rocna! Okay, so my daughter, she saw her brother give it a shot. Now she wants to give it a shot. She's in first grade, 7 years old. She's pretty strong for her age, so we'll see how a 7-year-old handles the situation. Okay, so Isabella versus the Rocna. On 3, start pulling.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I think the Rocna's won. It's buried in. She's struggling. Oh, she's over. Rocna for the win. Okay, so now the kids want to try doing it as a group together. See how they fare against the Rocna. As you both saw, the Rocna beat them both pretty good in the tug-of-war. So let's see how this one goes. All right, so oops, let's tilt the anchor up.
Come on.
Get it nice and fair and even. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. On the count of 3, start pulling. 1, 2, 3, pull.
Bella's dying right now. Okay, let's do this. How far did it get?
Okay, that's it. The Rocna's winning. You guys are stalled out. Okay, so now my son's going to try pulling the Lewmar Bruce copy. See how he does. So, on 3, Bo, start pulling. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. I think the old Bruce is giving him a run for his money. I think. Oh, he's making some headway. He's making some headway. Yeah. Okay.
You are making those faces, Dad.
All right. I think the Bruce won this one. All right. So, what'd you think, Bo? How did that one compare to the Rocna? What's your thoughts?
I think my arms got destroyed.
Okay, so now my daughter wants her shot to do battle with the Lewmar / Bruce. So here we go. Okay, Bella, on 3. 1, 2, 3, go. No, you can't put your arm on there. No. You got to pull like regular. All right. Well, that Bruce looks like, oh, she's down. The Bruce did pretty well, I would say. All right. Okay, and here's the kids. They're going to try to defeat the Lewmar / Bruce together as a team. Let's see how they do. Okay, on 3, start pulling. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, stop taking the whole rope. Oh. We got a chance. Probably.
Wow.
Bella.
Yeah, you guys work
keep
as a
on pulling,
team.
Keep on pulling, Bella. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We got a chance.
Wow. All right, there you go. You guys won. Awesome.
Yay.
Well, there you go. As you can see, the 2 kids working together they were able to defeat the Lewmar, and so that's. And I was, of course, able to defeat the Lewmar. So yeah, so we can definitely say that the Rocna
Uncle Sam
definitely has more power, more holding power than the Lewmar. Yeah, that Rocna. It beat up these kids pretty good.
Deathy! I'm deathy!
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap on our anchor test.
All right. Well, now we've concluded our fun little anchor testing challenge between the Bruce / Lewmar and the Rocna 10. Yeah, you know, I can say that I'm happy to report that the Rocna, you know, gave me a pretty good workout, as you saw in the video with my arms. It's a tough anchor, it dug in. You know, I think it's important to kind of give a little bit more detail on what we just did there in the garden. So, as I said before, I freshly rototilled that garden, and as you know, rototillers only, the tines only dig down so far. And our area, it's a lot of clay soil. And what I kind of took away from our little test back there is that the Rocna, of course, both these anchors dig down through the soft, freshly tilled soil fairly well. But what I kind of gathered was that this Lewmar Bruce really struggled when it got down through the soft soil and started hitting that clay soil, which it's moist. It's not dry, hard clay. It's still, we have a fair amount of moisture in our ground here still. This anchor just kind of wasn't able to really dig in. It doesn't have a real sharp point. So it just kind of got down through the soft soil and then hit and just kind of bounced along the clay, and it really seemed to struggle to get a bite in that harder clay soil. So the Rocna, because it, you know, it has that sharp point. You can still see, I actually sprayed these anchors off with the hose to kind of clean them up. There's clay soil still on it. It just dug and it just wanted to bury itself into that clay soil. So this is a much more aggressive anchor. I was, as you saw in the video, I'm a fairly strong guy, I think. I was pulling this with all my might and I couldn't get this anchor across that garden bed, you know. So, you know, again, I mean, it's just a fun little test. I understand that it's not real world or anything, but I think it, in my opinion anyway, demonstrates that this anchor here has quite a bit more holding characteristics than this anchor in suboptimal, you know, bottoms, you know. Once again, hard clay soil is a pretty challenging thing for an anchor to bite into, and this one does it. Quite frankly, this one doesn't, you know. So, as I said earlier, you know, we tend to anchor in areas that are, you know, pretty challenging, and so I'm, you know, fairly confident that this anchor is going to do well for us relative to this anchor. You know, not to say that this is a bad anchor at all. We actually have used this anchor. We anchored up in the Puget Sound after we got done taking delivery of the boat here. We anchored up in the Puget Sound area at some various anchorages, and this anchor performed phenomenally well, you know, and you know, it's where we anchored was an ideal substrate, or however you want to phrase it, for an anchor, and it has great holding power. And this anchor did well, you know. So I don't want to come off saying that this anchor is a horrible anchor. It's not. We're up in the Puget Sound, windstorms and all that, and we never drug anchor once, you know. But once again, we were in ideal situations. Our local lake, the bottom is not ideal for anchoring. So, you know, I don't want people to walk away from this video thinking this is a horrible anchor, because it's not. It's good, and we've had good experiences with it. And as I said before, even at our lake, which has, you know, not the greatest bottom for anchor holding, this anchor it drags a little bit, but it reconnects. So, you know, it's like anything in life. You got to, you know, all these things cost money, and you got to kind of weigh things out, you know, and you know, cost benefit analysis. And everybody's situation is different, you know. And so I once again, I just want to make sure that I'm fair about this, and I don't want to come off saying like the Bruce Lewmar anchor is horrible, because it's not. It's done well for us, you know. But I think at this point, anyway, that this anchor is going to be, you know, an improvement, and I'm going to probably sleep a little better at night, because I'm kind of a nervous Nelly when it comes to sleeping at anchor. So anyway, I've seen videos of boats washed up on the beach because the anchor drug. I don't want that. So I think the Rocna is going to help a lot. Soothe my nerves. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching my video, and there will be more to come, so stay tuned. Like and subscribe. Bye.